the pit stops we have as well. When they stop, you have to have the engine off. Solo drivers have to run basically entirely around the car. My notes here from Brian Oliver says 360 degrees around the car. You have a maximum of 22 mechanics that can work on the car, which is interesting. You cannot. You can refuel. There's no refuel and tyre change, though you can, I think, pit under a full course yellow, but you can't do so under a safety car, according to my notes here. And change on end. So you'll be able to see how that works out as the race goes on. So in terms of the grid, as I mentioned, it's set by the second fastest times from Q1, and that means that from that, as we see our number 22 machine, ready to go from the front row of the grid. The second fastest times from qualifying basically means that Manuel Alves, who was the winner yesterday in the sprint race, we look at our category 2 driver lineup for this race once again. A few 2 driver lineups in there as well, but we've got many solo drivers here, the likes of the defending champion Manuel Alves in there as well. Brianna McDonald, who's making her first appearance in the championship this weekend, her first debut racing as far as I can see, in car number 27. You've got Francisca Queiroz as well, one of our female lady racers. Daniel Garcia, and also watch the likes of Jose Barros and Jorge Ramirez as well, who've been pretty quick all weekend, and they're going to be looking to try and put in some good performances. They'll be starting with the second row of the grid. But this is the car starting on the front row alongside the pole sitter and defending champion Manuel Alves. Alejandra Barambia Pereira, who was in the contention for a podium place yesterday in sprint race 1, and then had a spin exiting turn 3, which pushed him down the order and eventually saw him finish outside of the top 5. So he's going to want to try and redeem himself in this 50-minute race. Of course, it being an endurance race means this is, of course, a bit of more of a marathon, not a sprint, so they're going to have to try and work as hard as they can to make it as best as possible. Seeing here on the grid, that's number 88, which is Jorge Ramirez, starting from 4th on the grid, the second row. And he picked up his first AM-class victory yesterday, so he'll be off the back of that, particularly buzzing, and looking to try and replicate that and get a good victory this afternoon as he lines up from the second row of the grid. The rest of the order looking down the field, you've got Sasha Baruch, who was quite quick yesterday in that top 5 group. Daniel Garcia has been getting quicker through the field as well. And I'd also watch out for car number 17. Car number 17, Andre Fernandez, starting in P7. But you have to remember, that car was in victory lane this morning because it took victory in Sprint Race 2 in the hands of former Porsche Super Cups champion and Nürburgring 24-hour class podium finisher, Dylan Pereira. Dylan putting some good pace in, although he was kept honest in that race by the likes of Jose Barros and also Manuel Alves in the end. And Barros actually came quite close in some cases when he's trying to attack. There was a late safety car after we have a number 11 of Category 1. So we see our Category 1 drivers on the screen. And that had Ferreira at the wheel. That car had a spin up at turn 3. Looks like it stalled the engine or had some kind of an issue, which meant he couldn't properly get going. And on the restart, he didn't get the best of runs through turns 2 and 3. And he was under threat there from Barros in that closing lap. But in the end, it was Pereira who was able to hold on. Cycling back through our Category 2 drivers, you can see who is where. We'll go through the proper grid once they're off onto the formation lap so we can tell who is where. There was a bit of a late drama in the 991 category. Just for those who are watching, you might not have seen the first 2 races. There are technically 2 categories in this championship. You have Category 992, which is for the current specification 992 generation Porsche Carrera Cup cars. Then you have 991, which is for the prior generation 911 Cup cars, 991.1 and 991.2. So it makes the older cars get a little bit of an extended competition life. It means they can still race in this championship, and it fills out the grid nicely on top of that too. So in that 991 category, at one point, it was going to be Chloe Grant, who was in contention for victory. She was leading on the restart, and then she lost the back end going into turn 2 and slipped down the order, which meant it gave the victory in the end to Nuno Inocencio, who has taken 2 victories now. He's also one of our top gentleman drivers in the field as well, as the field makes its way off the grid and away now for its formation lap. And it means then that the Porsche, which is number 36, which has got Maria Sanchez Iglesias at the start of this Enduro, and will hand over to Chloe Grant at the pit stops, could climb up in the second half of the race once Chloe gets aboard. Maria, of course, will do her stint and try and climb as best she can. But Chloe might well be looking to get a few places depending on where they're placed in the field. So let's get ourselves set for our endurance race as we get a look at the grid and see who is where for this third and final race of the weekend here for Porsche Sprint Challenge Iberica. So on pole position is the defending champion, car number 1, Manuel Alves. He'll start alongside Alejandro Barambia Pereira, car number 22. And he was sharing that car with Borja Garcia, who was Borja Garcia in fact. Borja Garcia was put in the pressure on Dylan Pereira. So those two were quite close on the restart. So it'll be Pereira and Garcia who'll share that car on the front row of the grid. Then it's going to be Jose Barros racing solo, as is also Jorge Ramirez on the second row of the grid in cars 77 and 88. Car 15 is starting in fifth. That's Sasha Baruch, who's sharing with Asier Torrelia, and he'll alongside Daniel Garcia in car 75. Then car 17, watch for the green car, which is Andre Fernandez sharing with Dylan Pereira. And that car has Jan Traverson starting from the fourth row of the grid in car number 9. Then it's Hank Van Zerst who's showing that car with Felipe Nascimento in the top 10, Francisca Quieros, who's the highest placed of our lady racers. Nuno Inocencio, who's in the 991 class, he'll start alongside Pablo Hernandez in car number 82. And Nuno is on his own in that car. Alexandra Fonseca alongside Ferreira on the 7th row of the grid, alongside Brianna McDonald, who's starting her first endurance race in the championship. And right at the back of the field in 15th, we will see the combo of Maria Sanchez Iglesias and Chloe Grant. Watch for Chloe to come through when she jumps in for her stint at the end of the pit stop. So remember, the pits window is between 20 and 30 minutes. It's for the two driver teams, a minimum two pit stop time plus the handicap, which you get based on your sprint race results. If you're a solo driver, it's 125 seconds minimum, so 2 minutes 5 seconds minimum pit stop plus the handicaps that you get from the sprint results if you finished in first, second and third. And also if you're a solo driver, you have to get out, run around the car entirely and get back in. So unlike the two sprint races, which were standing starts, it's a rolling start for this 50-minute endurance race. They'll be rolling towards the lights, and you see them at the top of the gantry when you see them on screen. Then, once they go out, we'll be ready for 50 minutes of Porsche Sprint Challenge Iberica action here at Circuito de Navarra. It's a pretty young circuit, only opened 15 years ago, but it is situated near the town of Los Arcos, multidiscipline sporting complex, and it is certainly quite a tight and technical circuit. Lots of, say tight, slightly wider portions, but it's got lots of different kinds of corners, and it's going to be quite exciting to see. There are the red lights waiting for the cars to head around the final corner. The final turn, as the safety car is in pit lane, a little bit like Circuit the Americas, where you're coming uphill and turning round to the right, a little bit off to the left, going to the American circuit. But they now come 2 by 2. So Manuel Alves and Pereira on the front row of the grid. Who's going to get the whole shot down towards that high-speed turn 1? They're going to be approaching about 120 plus miles an hour as they draw side by side. The endurance race for round 4 of Porsche Sprint Challenge Iberica, all set to go here at Navarra. Watch for the red lights, which go out. They fan out in sequence, and away we go. And actually, it's a quicker start. Initially, it's seen from Pereira, but on his toes also is Jorge Ramirez. It's going to be 3 abreast almost down towards turn 1 for the first time. Who's going to win the squeeze? It looks like Pereira is going to hold on to that because Alves is on the inside line. Pereira's got the middle ground and Ramirez around the outside. One car in a shape is Barros. He's back up the inside to hold on to third place. Ramirez runs out wide. In it has Sasha Baruch to his outside, exiting turn 3. And Fernandez was in there as well, trying to make up places from P6 in the car that he's sharing with Dylan Pereira. There's a couple of lockups, a couple of bits of smoke, but I think they've all got through just about clearly as the 50 minutes gets underway. So Alves leads then. It's Pereira in second place, Barros third, Ramirez fourth, Baruch in 5th, and going with them is Fernandez in 6th, trying to put that car in a good position for Dylan Pereira in the first part of this stint. That turn 8 is a dive up the inside further back. We'll check how that is in a minute, but down towards turn 9 for the first time. On the back straight towards this tricky braking zone. Back down through the gears again. Alves holding the place. Still with Pereira, then Barros, then Ramirez, then Sasha Baruch, and then it's Dylan Pereira's co-driver, Fernandez, in there in 6th position. That's the 6-pack that's pulling away on this opening lap. Remember, it's a 50-minute race. Mandatory pit stops. Some of these drivers are going all the way through the entire 50-minute solo. That's an entire full stint in this race. So they wind their way back through towards the pits once again. Just exiting out of turn 13. This is where they'll go past the pit entry. Now turn 15. And now to the flat-out kink of 16. They'll use all the curb to try and leverage that car around. Fernandez tries to keep with the top 5. And then out of the final corner, climbing uphill, back onto the pit straight, and up to the end of lap 1 in this 50-minute endurance race for Porsche Sprint Challenge Iberica. There's a good crowd of people on the grandstand as the 992 cars charge their way down the pit straight. And let's look at the lead that Alves has. He's cleared by just about a second from Barros in second place. It's now side by side as here comes Pereira trying to get the place back. Side by side for second, and it looks as though, is that Barros ahead? It is. Barros has got himself ahead, but up the inside again looks Pereira. There's a little bit of a tap in the tail by the look of it, and now here comes Ramirez to try and pick up third place if he can. He's also got Sasha Baruch, the French driver, who's got experience in historic GT3 racing and all sorts of classic sports cars. He's raced Classic Le Mans in 2022. So he's going to be on his toes to try and make ground. Already, Alves trying to pull away. Now, he did this in race 1 yesterday in the sprint, where he managed to get a gap. By the end of lap 1, he was 2.8 seconds to the good out in front. He managed to get as high as about 10 or 11 seconds and then dropped back to 8 by the end because he backed off his pace, feeling as though he didn't have to go that quickly. Alves back down through the gears and towards turn 2. Still the fight for second. Barros, Prodea. Then Ramirez and Baruch. That's the top side. They come out of turn 9, sweeping back through 10. Fernandez in 6th position in the 991 category. A great start from Hugo Inocencio. He's gained 4 places from where he started in 11th. He's up to P7 and by far the leader in the 991 category. It is Hernandez in 2nd place in that category, and a good start also for Maria Sanchez Iglesias. She has gone up to 12th overall and 3rd in class. So she's trying to make some moves here to get herself in a good position so she can hand that car over to Chloe Grant at the pit stops. We also had issues for number 11 of Fonseca. Alexandra Fonseca, after that car had a spin in race 2 in the hands of Ferreira. Fonseca is already in the pit lane, so didn't even complete the first lap, sadly. And also an issue for the number 41 Porsche, which is the car that's being shared by, by Nascimento, but also by Henk van Zurst. So Henk van Zurst, the 2022 Spanish Endurance Championship racer, having problems, and that car stopped out on circuit somewhere. So the number 41 car out of it before the race has even really started. Out in front, Alves sets the first proper flying lap, 148.585. The rest of the field doing 149s and 150s. And Barros in 2nd place now with Barambia Pereira just behind him by 9/10 of a second. Alves sets the new fastest first sector. And Ramirez 4th. Sasha Baruch in 5th. This might be a bit of a back and forth here as Baruch closes in on Ramirez. He's putting the pressure on as they come out to 6 and 7. Up towards turn 8. Kick up of the seat with dust as he comes up towards the right-hander. This could be a possible move here if he lines him up neat enough. It's a good exit down the back straight. Now he's going to be quick at close enough here. He just darts out, puts himself into the mirrors of Ramirez. Don't think he's close enough to make a dive. He'll certainly make him think about it. Taking through the curb as Baruch keeps up his pursuit. It's early doors. We only hit 5 minutes in this race. There's still plenty to go, and the pit stop strategies could also really make a difference in this race. It's a different element. We're essentially doing, well, more than that in fact. We're doing practically 2 sprint races put together into one, because 20 minutes plus 1 lap is roughly around about, what, 22, 23 minutes. So it's roughly duplicating what we've done in this first 2 sprint races, just all in one together. And it's a different element as well. And also there are double points available for this. So where you would score 18 points for a win, here in this race, if you go down to my notes here, 18 points for a win in the sprint race, 16 for second, and then 14-12, and then down by 1 all the way to 15th place for a point. In endurance, it's double, so you get 36 points for a win, 32 for second, 28 for third, then goes down in 2s from 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then he goes all the way down to P15 where you get 2 points as well. So keep an eye out for how these races will play out as Alves turns his way right into turn 3. And if anything, Barros is pulling away from Barambia Pereira and actually leaving him in the clutches of Ramirez and Sasha Baruch, who also is losing a little bit of ground. He's lost a car length or so on that last lap to Ramirez in front. Fernandez is keeping a nice steady brief in P6. He's just running that car nicely, just I think waiting to put Dylan Pereira at the wheel. And I'd be surprised if Dylan doesn't start charging in that second half of the race, trying to close the gap in. Although his pace was very even. He was matched a lot by Borja Garcia, and he was keeping quite honest. So I'm sure that if Pereira can keep a good run here and keep both Ramirez and Baruch at bay and just run his own race, then he'll hand over another healthy car, which I'm sure Borja Garcia will know exactly what to do with. Now, end of the second sector on my timing screen, which might be ever so slightly ahead, is that Barros has just set the new fastest first sector of the race. He's got about a 10th quicker than Alves on this one. And last time by was another new fastest lap of the race at the end of lap 3 for Alves, 148.423. He was at least 4/10 clear of the rest of the pack because Barros picked up 2nd quickest time and 2nd fastest. Watch the field wind its way through. There goes the 22. Barambia Pereira hoping not to loop it around like he did in race 1 earlier on. Pereira, who is one of the younger drivers in the field, and in terms of his experience and what he's done, he has been Rotax karting until end of last year. So a pretty young talent is Pereira. And so far his record's been pretty good. He has, yesterday was a bit of a blot on his copybook. He did get a non-finish at Monte Blanco. He dropped outside the top 5, or just about into the top 5, after his sprint race yesterday. But outside of that, his results have been pretty consistent. He was second in his sprint and third in the endurance at Portimao, second in his sprint again at Monte Blanco, and then non-finished in the endurance, and then second in his sprint again for the third time, followed by a win in the endurance last time out at Valencia. So that might well be telling, considering that if he hands over that car to Borja Garcia, how much work Borja might have to do. But if Pereira can keep himself pretty close and do the work, he might well have the pace advantage, particularly over Manuel Alves, depending on how much of a lead that Alves can build up in this first part of the race. Because remember, Alves has to do this solo. He has to make a pit stop, but he doesn't have a driver change. He'll have to get out of the car, run around it completely, or as I can put in my notes here from Brian, a complete 360 around the car, and then jump back in order to kind of constitute him mimicking a driver change, so to speak. That's how they do it if you're a solo driver. You have to jump out and then back in again in order to kind of make it fair and to simulate what you would do if you were doing a driver change. Now, this is interesting. Just looking there, that was Pereira, who is now just backing up into Ramirez here. Ramirez just trying to put the pressure on, and he was flashing the headlights, so he's putting the pressure on young Alejandro. And as Jorge Ramirez turns his way now out from turn 15, keeping the pursuit up. He was last year's 992 AM champion. Picked up his first AM class win of the season yesterday in race 1. There goes Alves sweeping through the shot. There goes Barros. And then Pereira, Ramirez, and Sasha Baruch just holding on in 5th position. Sasha, as I mentioned, raced the Le Mans Classic back in 2022. 2 years before that, he was racing in the Classic Endurance Racing Series in GT1 cars. So he's got some pretty heavy machinery that he's been able to pilot and underneath him. Now he's plying his craft in Porsches. Still, Alves continues to lead. 3.4 seconds, nearly 3.5. He was quicker by a full second on that last lap from Barros. It was a 1:48.5. So he's still on fastest lap pace. Barros lost time and did a 49.5. So the cars behind the leader are doing very even lap times, spread by about 0.2 per second. That's working well. Then we've got a replay here, exiting turn 3. And, oh dear, that's not the first time that car's been around. That is the 36 of Maria Sanchez Iglesias, which has mimicked what Chloe Grant did in race 1. Looping it around at that similar part of the circuit. Maybe pushing a little too hard at this early stage. And that's cost us some time and possibly a couple of places on top of that. Down the back straight. Back into the braking zone of 9. Still, this 3 are in a pretty much a stalemate. And they have significantly dropped the 6th place car, which is number 17 of Andre Fernandez, who himself has done GT3 Portugal Cup AM, also raced in last year's championship. And of course, handing that car over to Dylan Pereira. He's been a multiple winner in Porsche 6 Carrera Cup Deutschland. He's been 2022 Super Cup champions, we keep on mentioning. And on top of that, he's been a category winner a couple of times, or category podium finisher several times at the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Vastly experienced, lots of Porsche Cup experience. So it's no surprise that he took victory earlier on this morning. But wasn't allowed to get away with it. He wasn't allowed to fully run away. He was kept. The safety car obviously helped, and he made a little mistake going into exiting turn 2. He ran wide and just let Borja Garcia have a little small window of opportunity, which he couldn't quite take. And so, in the end, it didn't really matter for Garcia because he got himself a 5-second penalty. I suspect for track limits, because typically 5-second penalties only really occur for track limits of some kind. And of course, this being an MSV circuit, they most likely have pressure pads on quite a few of the corners. So if you run over them too much, you set off a pressure pad, which then triggers a camera, takes a picture of your car, sends it to race control, and it's irrefutable proof that you are pretty much extending track limits and taking the mickey, so to speak. So there's no real way to argue that. So MSVs will certainly be running this circuit in exactly the same way they do their UK circuits as well. Continuing to watch the fight for third as we look a little further back. This is a few more other cars in the field. That looks like it is Traverson in car number 9, chasing down our 991 class leader, which is Hugo Inocencio. He wants the hat trick after you picked up 2 victories. Whoops! Around goes the 82, and that is the Pablo Hernandez 991, and that's done exactly the same loop around that he did. Well, exactly the same loop around that the number 11 car Ferreira did down at turn 3, and now twice the 36 991. He's had a spin down there both in the hands of Chloe Granting second sprint race, and just now in the hands of her co-driver Maria Sanchez Iglesias. So something about the 991s going into that very fast section of 2 and 3 where you've got very tricky trail braking. If you carry even a little too much speed and try to brake and trail brake at the same time, if the brake balance is off or the car's just not set up for that part of the circuit, it really can get you a little bit loose. Also, we should mention is that the 992 cars do have both traction control and ABS on them. But even so, sometimes pushing a little too hard, not even those aids can save you. So battle on. This is only for track position between, well, race position, but two different classes entirely. So we switch back to our fight for third position between Alejandro Barambia Pereira, the Spaniard, running as one of the AM drivers, and behind him, Jorge Ramirez, also AM class. Sasha Baruch, also AM class. This is an AM battle. There goes Fernandez. Keeping nice and calm and steady. Keeping that car in one piece for Dylan Pereira to jump into. I'm certain when we get the likes of Dylan Pereira, and also as well, I say Borja Garcia, but Barambia Pereira is doing quite a decent job in third place, keeping it steady, but I think maybe even he would slightly argue that Borja Garcia's got a little more experience and therefore arguably the faster driver. But having that said that, Pereira is holding his own. He's, of course, a young talent, not long out of karting until he got into cars last year. And enjoying himself in Porsches by the look of it. And certainly holding his own against some slightly more experienced and older drivers in the field. Turns his way under brakes. Takes that late apex out of turn 11. A little right-left wiggle as they come back through turn 13. Another kink of 14. And then back down towards that sharp right-hander of 15 that will take you all the way back towards the pits at the end of another lap. Now we're coming up to the pit window opening in around about 5.5 minutes time. So we'll see cars making their pit stops. There's no set time as to exactly when they have to make a pit stop as in a particular lap, as long as they make their pit stop within that 10-minute window. And that's acceptable. And remember, there are some slight pit stop handicaps, so you'll have at least for two driver entries. It's a minimum of 2 minutes for the pit stop. I imagine it's from pit in to pit out. So it's when you cross the pit in line to when you cross the pit exit line that your pit stop minimum has to be 2 minutes, rather than just being stationary for 2 minutes. And if you're running solo, you get an extra 5 seconds and you have to jump out and run around the car in order to mimic a proper driver change. Because it's all too easy that you could simply just sit in the car for 2 minutes and not do too much, whereas an extra element, you have to kind of mimic that driver change and carry on. There goes Fernandez, P6. And we've got a look on the timing screen. The number 36 Porsche has come into the pits, and that's the Maria Sanchez Iglesias car. But that's not a scheduled stop within the windows. That's a problem for the 36. Now I wonder if that was related to the spin that Maria had down at turn 3, because Chloe's one, I think, was just her pushing a little too hard on the restart. From what I could see, Maria's one didn't quite see the beginning of it and how she lost it, but whether or not it was caused by an issue which has now manifested itself more, we'll have to wait and see. But as far as I can see, that's I think at least, it looks like it's an unscheduled stop. As in, it won't count as won't count as the mandatory stop, but we'll wait and see. That's a shame, because when that car's going, it's one of the quicker 991s out there, and certainly would have been in contention for a good result. But the best result they've achieved in class was actually in a couple of times they've scored third place, and they scored a third place in the endurance at Monte Blanco, and then it was third place again for Maria when she was at the wheel of the car in the first race at Valencia. Apart from that, they've scored fourths and fifths, and they were so close to getting that first 991 victory in race number 2, but just a mishap from Chloe, lost out. But they're both very talented lady racers, and certainly I'm sure the first win will come for them. It's a matter of when rather than if for them. This is the fight for second place. Now, Barros has been dropped to the tune of 4.6 seconds now by Alves, and looking at lap times, it's fairly even between Barros and Pereira at this point in time. Barros is at the fight for second place, and Barros is only 2.5 seconds up the road. So if Pereira's got a little more pace to try and close in, there's every chance that he could start to make some inroads. He was a tenth quicker in the first sector, so he's steadily chipping away. he might want to be getting plenty of incentive from the fact he's got a charging Jorge Ramirez right behind him. As they close in towards turn 9. He's getting a little bit closer. Turning his way through the right-hander. Just putting the pressure on Pereira now. This is more pressure than he's had to deal with so far this race. And he's just posturing around, having a look. He takes a slightly deeper approach, and you can see that Pereira's not comfortable on the racing line. He has to go defensive to try and block the move from Ramirez behind him as they come back through turns 12, 13 and 14. Now back towards the sharp right-hander of 15. Back down through the gears, but Ramirez, I think, has got a plan here, but just trying to pick his moment. He's not going to try and make a desperate lunge anywhere. He's going to try and calculate his move, get a little closer, and make it happen. There goes Barros in second place. Now, looking at the sector times as well, Barros has pulled back 3/10 in the second sector. And we'll see how equally matched they are in the final sector. And it looks as though, across the line, but actually their final sector time was almost identical to a thousandth of a second. 1,000th of a second between them in terms of their final sector time. I think it was 31.106 for one of them, 31.107 for another. So very evenly matched in terms of how they negotiated the last few turns. But the gap is stabilised at 4.5 seconds. And on this first sector, by the look of it, Barros has gone 2/10 quicker than Alves out in front. So the gap is stabilised at 4.5. Pereira has matched Alves in the first sector as well, as too has Ramirez. Baruch has come back to them by 2/10, but he's fallen back by now 2 seconds in this point in time. As we see, Alves putting a lap on a newcomer this weekend, 27 Brianna McDonald, who's been getting quicker and quicker in that car. But actually, she's lapping in the 156s now. Her best time is 156. Considering where she started the weekend, in qualifying when she did a 2 minutes 8, and then in the race she did, first sprint race she did a 2 minutes lap time. Her best lap in sprint race 2 was about a 157. They got to 156s. Up the inside goes Ramirez in towards turn 11. He's been setting that one up for a while. And Ramirez spots his opportunity up the inside, and Pereira has to give him the room. So up into third place goes Jorge Ramirez in number 88. And I thought for a second they were taking a while to get through, but just the camera shot didn't swing round. There goes Barros trying to get around McDonald to put a lap on her, but she stays firmly out of the way. That's good driving from her. Obeys the blue flags. Well done, Brianna. Alves turning his way out of the final corner in blissful ignorance of what was going on there. And now, immediately, actually, Ramirez has got to third place. Now, am I seeing things, or has Pereira disappeared? No, he's in the pit lane. Now, the pit window has opened, so he can make a pit stop. That's probably what he's done. He's seen the pit window has been open. He's been told over the radio when Ramirez tried to put the lap there on Brianna McDonald. She took her own racing line and cuts over the inside of the circuit. I think Jorge was a little bit impatient getting past Brianna there. Yes, she was respecting blue flags and held her racing line, but the rule is she held a line, and it's down to Jorge to pick his line to get around her. So he kind of did that, but had to use all the track and a little bit more to do it. It was a bit cheeky, but he managed to get the lap redone, and Sasha Baruch has gone in there as well. Also, the pit lane, quite crucially, right at the start of the pit window, and I'm slightly not surprised, is the number 17 car, which is of Andre Fernandez. So he's quickly trying to maximise the time that Dylan Pereira is in that car. So Dylan then jumping in, and also a changeover for, as you said, the number 22. So that's Borja Garcia getting into the 22 GT Corsa Porsche. And for AF&V Motorsport, that is Dylan Pereira jumping in for Andre Fernandez. So two of the fastest drivers in the field, arguably. Also coming to the pit lane as well, we have our 991 class leader. So that is Hugo Inocencio. He is solo in that car, if I'm correct. Nuno Inocencio, I should say, rather than Hugo. And he's trying to rebound a little bit after he's had some rough results. Back at Valencia, he had a nightmare. He took 2 non-finishes, one in the first sprint and one in the endurance race there. But thankfully, he's had much better fortunes here this weekend. He's had 2 victories in both sprint races, although that will give him some extra handicap on those results. The cameraman gets spooked by another car coming in front of him, and that is actually our race leader. So Manuel Alves will be jumping out, and you'll see the example. Out he gets, and he'll do a quick run around the car. That's kind of simulating his driver change. Just as Dylan Pereira leaves. And back in he gets. He'll be strapped back in. Little clean the windscreen as well on top of that too. Now, out in front, it is Jose Barros, who hasn't pitted yet. He's in the other of the AF and V Motorsport cars. So that car being shared, well, he's running that solo. He was the first AM champion for Porsche Sprint Challenge Iberica and was karting until 2022. So he is taking full advantage of the clear track in front of him. Currently lapping in the 149s. And also, the car that hasn't pitted yet is Sasha Baruch, who's got to hand that car over to Asia Torrelia, the Spaniard, for GT Corsa. But Barros looks pretty comfortable out in front. Looks like he'll pit a little later. But I can totally see why the likes of Barambia Perea and Andre Fernandez both pitted early, because they want to get their the Pro-Am drivers in to maximise the pace on those cars. Particularly in the last Enduro, Dylan was fourth in that race and Borja went on to win it. So if they can make full advantage of that, that'll work. Jorge Ramirez has stopped using all the track a little bit more and decided to use the pit lane to make his mandatory pit stop. And again, like Manuel Alves, he has to jump out of the car and get back around. There is car 44, Nuno Inocencio, back into the race having completed his mandatory stop. So he'll now continue on. Also, the background in the pit lane, like I said, I think that's car number 9. And car number 9 in the pit lane as well. I need to remind myself because it wasn't on my notes that Brian had. So it's obviously a driver that I haven't seen too much this season, which is Jean Traverson in the gentleman drivers category. Out of the pits goes Ramirez. Now we'll see where he feeds out, because he was battling with the 22 car of Garcia. Is that... Looked like that was Barros going through. And that, in fact, also is Alves. And has Barros gone through into the lead, I wonder? I think he has done, yes. So he's managed to leapfrog him. So obviously Barros hasn't pitted yet, of course. But Barros, I think, with the pit stop... I see what's happening. He's technically a lap ahead. But, of course, Barros has yet to make that pit stop. The top 5 in the race so far are yet to make a stop yet. So that's Barros in the 77. Sasha Baruch in number 15. The number 75, which is Daniel Garcia. And then we have the number 35 that hasn't pitted yet. That's Francisco Queiroz. And the 82, which is another of our 991 cars in the AM class, which is Pablo Hernandez. In the pit lane in the background I saw there, that was Maria Sanchez Iglesias coming in. So she'll hand that car over to Chloe Grant. Although that car is now, 5 laps off the lead. And compared to the next 991 car, it's 3 laps behind. So unfortunately, it is third in the category. But unfortunately, I don't think that car's going to be contending for a class... It'll get a class podium where it is. We'll have to wait and see how the rest of that plays out. There's 35. That is Francisco Queiroz, also demonstrating how you make a impromptu driver change of your solo. Just quickly sprint round the car and jump back in. Just seeking some of the belts as Francisco climbs back aboard the rather sort of neat-looking pink and white number 35 machine. She pitted from what was 4th overall at that point, because other cars are going to start to sweep through. Now into the lead of 991, but hasn't, of course, pitted yet, has gone the number 82, which is Pablo Hernandez, started in P6. There is Pablo. And in the pits now has come Jose Barros. Of course, he's running solo, so he'll be another one that will jump out and run round. Checking the tyre pressures. There he goes. Just a quick check of the tyre pressures, some of the details to see how that's running. They don't do tyre changes in this series, so you really have to. Just checking how they're all running. The Michelin rubber doing a fine job to last the 50 minutes. Sasha Baruch has gone to the lead of the race, given that he hasn't pitted yet. Now he's got about roughly, about sort of 3 3/4 minutes to make that pit stop, and he can do it in the next couple of laps. Lap times, as you said, mentioned, are about 148s, 149s. Now, Borja Garcia is not hanging around now. He's taken over from Alejandro Barambia Perea in the 22 machine. He's now just pumped in the fastest lap of the race, a 147.959. That is certainly pushing on out that pace, and he's going faster again in Sector 1. He's at a 25.849 in Sector 1. That is the fastest first sector of anybody so far. So he's going to be really pushing on. He's also set a very quick second sector, which is at least 3/10 quicker than anyone else, well, at least 1/10, because Alves is at a 24.2. And as for Dylan Pereira, he's going even faster. He's at a personal best in Sector 1. He's pumped at a 23.8 in Sector 2. Absolutely rapid at the moment for the ex-Porsche Super Cup champion. That's car 75, which is Daniel Garcia. He's not in a hurry, is he? Daniel Garcia just quickly wandering around the car. there's running around the car, and then there's having a casual stroll with a drink in your hand. So that's how you do it in the Spanish sunshine. Brilliant from Daniel Garcia. He's not in a hurry. He's just enjoying himself. That's the key thing. So through goes, that was Francisca Quieros. I think she's still the leader in the lady ranks. Yes, she is. At the moment, it is Quieros who leads in the Ladies' Cup. Second currently to Brianna McDonald, because she's a couple of laps ahead of Chloe Grant. And she might well stay there in second place. Although Chloe's obviously a very quick driver. This is Brianna's first weekend. But a second place will be a second place. If she can take that, she'll be taking 3 podiums away. She got 2 third places in the sprint races. A second in the Enduro. That will certainly give her lots of confidence for next time as well. I think she's in for the rest of the season. So she's been there also for Jerez, which is happening at the beginning of November. And then about roughly 2 to 3 weeks later, the finale when we go back to Portugal. First time since the round at Portimao right at the start of the season. So Portuguese rounds bookending the 4 Spanish meetings in between. As we see, that was Sasha Baruch handing over to Asier Torella. And we look back to our Ladies' Cup leader, Francisca Quieros. The pink and white number 35 Porsche glinting in the Spanish sunshine as the number 15 squad calls the car. Daniel Garcia, now he's completed his leisurely stroll around his number 75 Porsche with drink in hand, is now back out into the race. And he exits what was 7th in the race, but I'm sure he'll be looking to go pretty well. Now, as for fastest laps of the race, well, Borja Garcia had done a 147.9. Dylan thinks anything you can do, I can do a 10th better. He's done a 147.814. As we see also in the pit lane is the 82 of Pablo Hernandez. He was pitting from what was the 3rd or 4th overall. So he'll drop behind Inocencio when that car goes through. They're just pushing back the 15 car as well, so giving a bit more space. I think because that the 82 car came in, maybe some of the more nuanced steering angle on these cars is pretty tricky. In the pits there both is Chloe Grant and the number 27 car, though the 36 car with the bonnet up. So unfortunately, more issues for the Chloe Grant and Maria Sanchez Iglesias Porsche. That means Brianna McDonald looks to be on course, all being well, for picking up a second place in class. And that will certainly be a massive confidence boost on her first weekend. Good to see her taking the step. Now then, there's a creep battle there. That was going on between, looked like, Borja Garcia and scrapping with Ramirez. And that would have been for 5th position by the look of it. 4th, in fact. There's 2 Garcias in this race, but it's Borja Garcia Menendez who's now got himself up into 4th place. So he's past Ramirez. I spotted that just as we saw the couple of cars coming out of the pit lane. So Garcia's up to 4th now. And there is the Chloe Grant and Sasha Iglesias car in the pit lane, sadly. So looks like if they can get it back out, we'll wait and see. Otherwise, if it's too late, she might not be classified. The front bonnet section is back down again. Shame, because it is a wonderful looking car. And I'm afraid you can see that car is going no further. The 36 car with technical issues. And unfortunately, that's the end of their race. And the weekend could have gone so differently. Could have even had a 991 victory, was not for that mistake. Sadly, the weekend ending a little prematurely before this race even gets finished. Now then, we're seeing here, also on his toes, Dylan Pereira, pushing now to get past the Gorostiza Porsche. The 15 car runs out of the way. He completely gets spooked by Pereira, who just jumps up the inside in towards turn 11. And the former Super Cup champion is now up into what will be, I'm certain, that is going to be 5th position, I think. Because we've got to wait for a couple more cars to come back through and cycle around on pit stops. So the 15 car runs backwards. And Gorostiza, you did leap out of the way there, thinking, you're probably a faster car than me. I'm not having any part of that. You go through. You have the place. So the order now looks to be Barros, then Borja Garcia, then Ramirez, then Pereira. So he's into 5th position. We've got to look at lap times. Last time by, he'd set a 147.693, so another new fastest lap of the race. He's at a 148.358. He's not the fastest man out on track at the moment because the fastest lap last time in that lap was actually Borja Garcia, 148.1. We did see towards the end of the second sprint race when it was Pereira versus the 22 of Garcia. The Garcia was going a little bit quicker, and I think many people would have looked at Pereira's experience of being a former Super Cup champion and thinking, well, he's got the pace locked down and he'll be the quickest. But Garcia was giving him quite a heavy run for his money, and if he had managed to take advantage on the one lap restart that we had at the end of sprint race 2, because we had that safety car for the number 11 Porsche spinning up at turn 3 and stalling, then it would have been slightly different. So out in front then by 5.8 seconds is Manuel Alves, and he's lapping in the low 148, or high 148. 148.9 was his last lap. Jorge Ramirez's last lap was a 150.332 in 4th position. So just for context, because the cars around him are doing... Well, Barros is doing 149.1 as his last lap, but both Garcia and Pereira, they're firmly into the low 148s. They're absolutely flying at the moment, so I'm certain with the fact they're trying to close that gap in. I mean, Pereira's got 18 seconds to make up on the leaders, and it's a tall ask because Manuel Alves is not exactly slow. There he is, out in front. And we should mention that Manuel hasn't yet won an endurance race. He has won sprints. He's got a record now of having won every single one of the first sprint races when he takes part in them. He took him first at Portimao in the first sprint race, did it again at Monteblanco, did it again at Valencia, and did it again yesterday afternoon when he took sprint race 1 here in Navarra. So he's now on course potentially to take a victory. That depends on if the cars behind can start to close in. There's Barros putting a lap on our 991 class leader. I'm confident it still is him. And it is. So Inocencio still leads from Pablo Hernandez. And now in 3rd place is... Well, that's it, because we've only got 2 of those cars running, because Fonseca's out of the race. Chloe Grant's out of the race, as well as the car that she's sharing with Sasha... Who was that? So Maria Sanchez Iglesias, wrong driver. So those cars are out, and Fonseca's number 11 car pitted basically at the end of the first lap, so that car's not really out there. So 2 of the 991 cars not destined to make the finish. Alves turns his way through, and lap time wise he's not too bad. He did a 149.8, same pace as Ramirez, but the cars around are doing faster lap times. You look at Barros doing a 49.4, Garcia's done a 48.4, Borja Garcia, and Pereira's absolutely flying, a 147.8. He's gone 2 seconds quicker than the leader on that lap. He's got the gap down to 16 seconds. Now we've got 15 minutes to go. If he keeps on taking that much time out, he might start to close in a little bit more. The first task that Dylan has now is to try and get past Ramirez for P4, and he's caught up to him pretty quickly. He's taken 2 seconds out of him in this lap. He was 2 seconds back at the start of this one. He's obviously taken a lot more. Now, I'm not sure if we'll get past him by the time they get to the timing line. Getting close, though. He's going to make a little dive up the inside into the final corner, I wonder. He's out of turn 15. Used the curb to leverage the car to swing it through 16 and 17. There goes Borja Garcia. There goes Inocencio. And up the inside looks Pereira. I called it. Pereira not wasting any time whatsoever. Up the inside into the final corner. And now with 15 minutes to go, he's up into 4th position. And let's see now if he can start to chase after Borja Garcia, because that's pretty quick from him. And cross the line, they'll go towards the end of Sector 1. They're approaching that flat-out right-hander at about 150 miles an hour. This is arguably the most trickiest part on the circuit, because you're braking and turning at very high speed. And we've seen a couple of cars, particularly the 991s, loop it around here and either stall or have problems. So it's always pretty tricky to negotiate this circuit. You can see the heat haze rippling up. It's quite warm out there at the moment. 28 degrees. So typical Spanish weather, even for this time of year in September. Lovely and warm. It's beautiful blue skies. Little hint of a breeze, couple of kilometres an hour wind. Perfect conditions for motorsport out here in Spain. And no wonder we've got our contenders here enjoying this race and enjoying the sunshine. Now you can see already visibly that Dylan Pereira is pulling away this gap. At the end of the sector, he was 0.2 of a second ahead, but he's already been 4 tenths quicker in Sector 1, another 4 tenths quicker in Sector 2, so he's already gained 8 tenths in this first 2/3 of a lap alone. So he's pushing on. Now, his gap to Garcia is 5.4 seconds, but he's not really catching him quick enough, I don't think, unless he really starts to take massive chunks of time out of Garcia. Dare I say it, that 4th place might be as high as Pereira gets. Because I feel as though with 13 3/4 minutes to go, 13 and a half minutes to go, he might be a little too far away. Now, also I should mention that Barros has had a slow lap. He did 150.1 last time by. He lost about a couple of seconds or so to Alves, and also has lost a heck of a lot of time, a second and a half to Garcia in 3rd place. Garcia just went through the shot. There's the green car, Pereira. Ramirez still in 5th position, holding on. Gorostiza is 6th. Daniel Garcia is 7th place. Gian Traverson 8th. And it's Francisca Queiroz who leads the Ladies' Cup in 9th place. Nuno Inocencio rounds out the top 10 and leads the 991 category. And that's from Pablo Hernandez. And also the pit lane has come Brianna McDonald as well. So she's come into the pit lane, I think, with some issues. And she's been in there, I think, for a couple of laps. So sadly, one of our other lady racers, the debutante this weekend, I think she's from Canada. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the flag was correct. But Brianna, sadly, with problems for the 27 car, she had to come in for a particular reason. Been in there for a couple of laps. So hopefully she can get it back out and at least get some kind of a finish. It'd be a shame if she DNFs from her first endurance race in this championship. What about sector times? Is anyone closing a little more? Everyone's doing 26s in terms of sectors. Best sector time of sector 1 so far. It's gone to Borja Garcia, about a couple of hundredths quicker than Pereira, with 12.5 minutes to go. There goes in the shot the number 15 Gorostiza. And as we see here, that is... I think that's Garcia, who's only a couple of seconds back. Barros, of course, now he's picked the pace up a little more, but on that lap alone, Garcia was 1.5 seconds quicker, 148.4 compared to 149.9. So I think there's a potential possibility that we've got a fight on for second coming here. Manuel Alves is pretty comfortable out in front. He's 7 seconds to the good in the mix, but here's the fight for second developing. As Barros now has to fend off from a charging Borja Garcia as they come down back the pit straight. They've completed 20 laps in the books in this endurance race. Still 11.5 minutes to go. And there in the background, you could just see looming is Dylan Pereira. What's his gap now? 5.5 seconds across the line. He is lapping quicker, but not quick enough. It's a 48.3 for Garcia, 48.2. So he's the fastest man on track at the moment. But he's not gaining the time quick enough. He needs something to happen, like a fight or a mishap between the fight for second place to really draw himself back in. I would really love is a safety car, but whether that's the commentator's curse or not, we'll wait and see. You would love a safety car at this point. We did get one in race 2 for the sprints. There was a little flash of the headlights there from Borja Garcia, just trying to distract Barros, trying to get into his mirrors. Pereira keeps on pushing on. What about sector times? How are we looking here between this group? Pereira did a 26.3, 26.0 for Garcia, 26.6 for Barros in sector 1. So visibly you can see that Garcia's getting closer and Barros runs wide through turn 9. That's going to put him offline a little bit for 10 and 11. And that will be another incentive. And again, look, you can see Garcia darting around left and right, looking for a place to get through. This is for second in the race overall. And it is also for second in Pro-Ams. This is going to be for points and also for on-track position. It's going to be also for bragging rights as well on top of that. Back through, and Garcia smells blood in the water. He wants an opportunity to get himself second place. He's having a look. Think about it up the inside. Here he goes. Oh, there's a little tap in the tail there on Barros, but he's held back. I think he had to do that, otherwise he possibly would have faced a wrath of the stewards, but he's right under the rear wing of Barros as they come up through 16 towards 17. There goes Patricia Queiroz, and back up the inside he goes, and Barros defends. So again, Barros being forced offline here, but now we see that Borja Garcia is close enough to have the toe down the pit straight. It's now 9.75 minutes to go. Garcia latching on, pulls out to the inside line towards turn 1. Brave if he can do it at 150 miles an hour. Side by side for second place, and Barros has to back out of it. Garcia takes second place from Barros at high speed at 150 miles an hour into turn 2. And that was bold stuff from Borja Garcia, the ex-GP2 and Super League Formula and Formula 3.5 ace and Euro NASCAR winner, is up into second place with a gutsy pass up the inside, flat out at turn 1. He was not lifting for anybody. Excellent work for Borja Garcia, up into second place. Now, the big question is, unless Barros comes back at him, what can Borja Garcia do, if anything, about the leader, Manuel Alves? Now, he's lapping in the 149s at the moment. Pereira did a 148.4. Has got the gap down to this group to 4.6 seconds. But he's not quite close enough, I don't think. So he'll keep on pushing. Still time to try and make some ground. And if anything, even if Borja gets away, there's a chance that if Barros starts to lose lap time, his last lap was a 150.5, but he was spending half of that defending from Garcia. So I wonder if Pereira might start to catch and close in and even take a late third place from Barros if he falls back quick enough. He's staying with Garcia at this point. So Garcia's not getting away too quickly, but you can see visibly that Barros doesn't quite have all the pace he needs to be able to hold on. Wiggle their way out of turn 15. We'll see the gap across the line shortly to see exactly what it's looking like between the two of them. at the end of the lap. So there goes Garcia. There goes Barros. Across the line they'll go. And the gap between them now is across the line. Let's take a look at it. It has gone from 0.088 to about 0.8 of a second. So he's pulled another 0.8 on that lap. 149.1 for Garcia, 150.0 for Barros, even though Alves did a 149.2. So I wonder if Alves is just, again, like in the sprint race, just backed off his pace ever so slightly, just so he can reserve that car to the end. But unless Borja really starts pushing and has got tyres left, well, wait. Now, this is telling, because in the first sector, Garcia has already taken 0.3 out of Alves. We'll see if he can do a little more in this point in time. Also behind, Pereira has taken 0.4 out of Barros, and there's 2.9 seconds between them. But there he is, look. There's the green Porsche, chasing hard with 7 minutes to go. I think Pereira could do this. I think the pace he's got could be enough to catch Barros. As Barros tries desperately to hold on to the tail of Garcia's car as he continues to pull away and try and chase after Alves. Watch for the green Porsche. There it is. It's looming like the Incredible Hulk in the background. Just wanted to try and pick up a position. 6 3/4 minutes to go. Quick check-in with the rest of our order. The gentleman drivers, it's the Adel Gustoja number 15 machine that leads the gentleman driver category from Daniel Garcia and Gian Traverson. Looking at individual classes, Pro-Am in 992 is led by Manuel Alves. As we said, the top 3 are all Pro-Am cars, top 4 in fact. It's Alves from Borja Garcia, from Barros from Pereira. Then it's Ramirez who leads the AM category in the 992s, and that's from Queiroz, who also leads the Ladies' Cup on top of that as well. And also then Brianna McDonald was 3rd in AM class, but she's obviously in the pit lane with issues, so sadly her car looks like it's going no further. Blue flags flying for... that's Gian Traverson in car number 9. He's parked it a little bit on the racing line, and Alves has to dart out of it. But then again, it is the responsibility of the faster car to make their way around the lapped car safely, and he has done. So Gian held his line. Good driving from Gian to keep his line there. Now then, there goes Garcia, and he pulled 0.3 back. He's actually pulled another 0.6 back in the first sector. So impressively, Borja's pushing as hard as he dares, but he's running out of time here. I think Alves could well be on his way with 5 minutes and change to go. Just under 5.5 minutes, picking up his first endurance race victory of the season, because so far this season he has come second 3 times. Second at Portimao, second at Monte Blanco, second at Valencia. Is he about to go on with 5 minutes and change here on the clock here in Navarra? Is he about to go on and pick up his first endurance win of the season? Certainly looking that way. And car number 1 sitting pretty in position number 1. All he has to do is hold on for another 5 minutes and the win could well be his. So Alves, Garcia, Barros, Pereira, then Ramirez. That's the top 5 overall. Goroshiza 6th, Garcia 7th, Traverson 8th. Francisco Queiroz, who is leading in the Ladies' Cup, 9th. Hugo Inocencio 10th. He also leads 991 from Pablo Hernandez. They're the only 2 991s in the mix, because we've had both the Chloe Grant and the Maria Sanchez Iglesias car, number 36, go by the wayside into the pit garage. And also we lost number 11 right at the start of the race before the lap 1 had even been completed. So problems for the number 11 car, and no chance for them to score in this race either. 4 minutes to go. And behind, is that a change for 3rd? I think it is. Here comes Dylan Pereira. Side by side with Barros. He's going to do it again here. This is exactly what happened when Barros lost 2nd place. He's going to try and fight it out round the outside. Barros learnt his lesson. He's not going to give it up this easy, but runs out wide and goes too deep. He's gone too far off the road. Dylan Pereira says, bye. That was too easy for him. Up the inside he went. And as much as Jose Barros tried to hold on to that, Pereira had his number, had the inside line. I think it was Barros trying to possibly hold on, given the fact he backed out of it and let Borja Garcia through turn 1. He didn't want to give it up that easy, and he tried, but unfortunately, he just ran out of room, ran out of space, and eventually ran too deep into turn 1. Used the runoff area, and that was probably the easiest overtake that Dylan Pereira has made all weekend so far. So Pereira then up into the podium places. And pace-wise, he's matching Garcia. So unless Garcia starts to get held up in traffic or really have a problem, I think 3rd is as high as he's going to go. So no change between the top two, really. The gap is 7.2 seconds, so it's come down slightly. Last time by, Garcia was 7/10 quicker. He's another 4/10 quicker in Sector 1. They're pretty even in Sector 2. They both did a 24.4, did Alves in the lead and Garcia in second place. So no real change there into the last 3 minutes and change. Neto and Pereira looking to try and bring the AF&V Motorsport number 17 Porsche onto the podium. And he has won the Enduros at Portimao and Monte Blanco. Was 4th last time at Valencia. So it looks like he won't get his 3rd endurance win of the season this time by, but he's certainly pushing as hard as he can to try and bring that gap down where possible. Across the line they go. Lead gap is now down to 6.4 seconds. It's now a 49.6 for Alves, 48.7. So he basically clawed back almost a full second. And in terms of Pereira in 3rd, did a 48.5. So he was quicker still. So he was the fastest man on track. That's all. But Barros going through. Someone's kicked up the dust in front as well. Who's that? Someone has either run wide or gone off. Exiting turn 3. There's a cloud of dust somewhere, but who's kicked it up and for what reason, we don't know yet. The camera is zooming out. Pereira's carrying on, so it's not him. And Barros has carried on, so there he is as well. We just saw him exiting turn 3. It might well have been, I think, either the number 9 of Traverson or possibly Pereira running a little wide, pushing on hard. Into the final couple of minutes. And Garcia, he's not giving up, is he? He's done a further 6/10 back in the first sector, another 10.5 in the second sector. So that's about 3/4 of a second he's gathered back, but it won't be enough. If Garcia was a little closer and possibly had seen Pereira possibly put in a few more quicker lap times, not to doubt his ability at all, but if Garcia might be ruining that one, thinking there could have been a chance to get victory. But Alves, once he got the opportunity to get out in front, he's just kept on plugging away, kept on using the pace that he had in the first sprint race, and just got on with the job. And he might not be the absolute fastest car out there right now, but he's got the gap, he's got the advantage, and that's exactly what matters coming into this mix. So it's 50 minutes plus 1 lap. So when they come back around next time by, they will go ahead and start the last lap of the race. The time has gone to... He's crossed the line with 38 seconds left to go. And the gap has come down to 5.6 seconds. There is Manuel Alves. Charging his way through turn 1 again. That really tricky break is you get a lot of your braking done in turn 2. Then just roll off the brake as you come back towards 3. And back on the power once again. There is second place man Borja Garcia. There's Pereira. Only 3 seconds back. It looks closer than it actually is because the fact it's such a wide and long circuit is Navarra. Alves putting a lap there. I think that's Pablo Hernandez used to put a lap on there in one of the 991 machines. There goes Garcia, and just not that far behind him, it seems, is Pereira. And he did get a 1/10 of a second back or so in that first sector to Pereira, so he's not too far away. Manuel Alves is the number 1 for a reason. Defending champion, number 1 on the door, number 1 on the windscreen, number 1 in the race, number 1 in sprint race 1. Is he about to be number 1 and get his first endurance race victory? Certainly love that. He's keeping up also a 100% record of finishing on the podium. Not just finishing every race, but finishing on the podium in every single race on top of that too. He's only finished outside second place in any race once, and that was 3rd in Monte Blanco in the second race. Outside of that, he's taken 4 victories, all of them being the first sprint race of the weekend, as we mentioned. So he's kept that run up. He was 3rd in race 2 earlier on this morning. As he heads out through the final corner and onto the final lap of this 50-minute endurance race. He wiggles his way out, puts his foot to the floor, and we'll head forwards towards the checkered flag. It is the checkered flag, in fact. So, up to the checkered flag. No, I think he got confused there. It is 50 minutes plus 1 lap. So he thinks, oh, it's not over yet. I've still got 1 more lap to do. It confused me for a second there, thinking he'd actually finished the race because they were celebrating. He went to the pit wall, didn't see a checkered flag, and went, oh, I've got 1 more lap to do. So he's carried on at least. Had me fall for a second. I thought it was 50 minutes plus 1 lap, and it turned out I was right. But Alves trying to confuse us there. The team also celebrating on the pit wall. That's probably a mix of celebrating, saying, yes, you're in the lead, but also, don't back off just yet. You've still got 1 more lap to go. So, in actual fact, Garcia pulled another second back as a result of that. So that was 148.6. 148.1 as well for Pereira. He'll get close to Garcia, but he's just going to miss out. There goes second and third. Garcia and Pereira trying to give chase. But Alves realising, oh, crikey, one more lap to go. So down the back straight for the final time. The defending champion into the hairpin at turn 9. Nice, neat and tidy. One more time through turn 10. Back through the hairpin of 11. And this will be a very welcome victory to add to his quartet of sprints, because he has come close and picked up second place a couple of times. In fact, he's finished second in every single endurance race so far. So for once, this race is going to go in his favour here at Navarra. And of course, going forward, you want to try and keep that momentum. Of course, in the battle between himself and Dylan Pereira, he'll gain some key points back because he'll outscore him by, I think, by possibly 8 points. This could really tighten things up at the top of the 992 championship in the mix. As he comes up towards the final couple of corners, 3 times this season, Manuel Alves has been the bridesmaid in the endurance races, but here at Navarra, he's the bridesmaid no more. Car number 1 will go to position number 1 at the end of this race. Now, after 50 minutes, it will be victory for the second time this weekend and a first endurance win for Manuel Alves as he wins the Enduro at Navarra for Porsche Sprint Challenge Iberica. And this time he gets the checkered flag. Doesn't get confused in the end. Borja Garcia comes through, 3.7 seconds back in second place. And Dylan Pereira comes home in third to take a crucial podium. 4th place goes to Jose Barros. And 5th will go to Jorge Ramirez. And in terms of classes, it's Manuel Alves with the Pro-Am win. He wins ahead of Borja Garcia and Dylan Pereira, with Jose Barros in 4th. Ramirez will come across soon in 5th position. We are waiting for Jorge Ramirez. Here he comes. Here comes the pit wall, flash the headlights, and it'll be his second and win of the weekend, I think. Possibly his third if he won the sprint. Up to the checkered flag. And Ramirez is delighted with that. He is absolutely buzzing. It'll be now 6th for the number 15 Porsche. That will be the car of Sasha Baruch and Gorostiza. That's also a gentleman driver's victory for Gorostiza as well. So good job from them. Also across the line, I think that's the 35 across the line. That's Francisca Queiroz. And she is 2nd in the AM category and also wins the Ladies' Cup as well. So excellent work for Francisca. And the rest of the field will come streaming through. A couple of cars haven't quite taken the flag yet, including our 991 winner, which will be Nuno Inocencio. He'll take a clean sweep of the 991 category, both sprint races and the endurance. He crosses the line now and takes P10 in the end. But the man with P1 on the door and in the window was P1 practically throughout the entire race and takes P1 at the flag. It's number 1, the defending champion, Manuel Alves, who finally takes his first endurance race victory of the season. And that will certainly be a big boost to his championship battle, particularly with the man he's following right on track right now, Dylan Pereira. Of course, they came into the weekend separated by 8 points in the 992 category. But now, given the fact that Manuel and Dylan have taken a victory each and kind of counterbalanced each other, it's going to be even tighter now, considering that with the endurance race, you do get double the points of a sprint. So you actually get 36 for a win, 32 for second, and 28 for third. So if the fact that Dylan, I think, outscored Manuel by, what was that? He outscored him by 4 points. That would have taken the gap back to, I think, 12. And then gaining back another 8 points with my GCSE maths. I think that's going to close the gap to about 4 between Pereira and Alves, because Alves would have gained back 8 points for finishing first and getting 36 in the endurance. And the fact that Pereira got third place, in fact, and picked up that one as well. Now, I'm also seeing as well for second that 4 cars have got red next to their timings, and it's 1 second. I think it might be ever so slightly short pit stops, and one of them is for the race winner Manuel Alves. But thankfully, it's only a second, so he does keep the victory. He gets a 1 second time penalty. I imagine that's for an ever so slightly short pit stop. Dylan Pereira got a 1 second penalty as well. Again, I think for a short pit stop. The other 2 that also picked them up were our top 2 in the 991s. That was Nuno Inocencio with a 6 second penalty and 3 seconds penalty for Pablo Hernandez. But even so, he was so far ahead. I think he was about a lap ahead, in fact, was Inocencio. Didn't even really matter. Borja Garcia looks like though he's all smiles under the helmet as he gets out and gets the congratulations from his GT Corsa team. Happy with second place. And the rest of the top 3 are rolling into position behind the 1, 2, 3 boards. We move across. Here's our race winner. All 3 have lined up neatly. Pereira clambers out to the 17. But the race winner, for the second time this weekend, keeping up his 100% win record in the first sprint races of the weekend. He can now add in with some celebration as he slaps the roof and jumps out. It is a first endurance race win of the season in Porsche Sprint Challenge Iberica for the defending champion, Manuel Alves, and he is delighted, and no wonder. That will be a really crucial result, getting some points back for the fight in the championship. And this is certainly going to take the battle for the 992 class all the way to the next round at Jerez and even the final rounds at Estoril at the end of November. So there is also Francisca Queiroz, who is pulling in behind. She's second in AM class and our Ladies Cup winner. That's key. And there's Manuel Alves, all smiles, and no wonder. Vamos, she says, and of course, hugs all round from his team. And no wonder. Excellent job all round, and certainly keeping himself in contention to try and retain that 992 title, also the Pro-Am class as well. So fantastic work all round. Borja Garcia really put in the laps there to try and build on the work that his co-driver did in the first part, which is, of course, Alejandro Barambio Pereira, the young AM class driver. Just debriefed with his engineer there about how the race went. And Borja seems relatively happy with his work. Handshake with Manuel Alves. And also Dylan Pereira as well. Grand job to get third place. I think he was talking about the fact that Dylan was on his way. He was catching me up in the end. The gap between the two of them at the end, even though Pereira did get that 1 second penalty, was 2.6, but it's 1.6 on the road at least. There's Pereira now having a chat as well to his engineers, talking about his race. So damage limitation, still third place, still decent points. It keeps the title fight very much alive. And it means that the last two rounds are going to be quite exciting with 6 more races still to go. 4 more sprint races and 2 more endurance races to really settle who comes out on top. So we'll do a quick rattle down of the final result once again whilst it's still on screen on my timing screen here. So once again, Manuel Alves victorious in overall and also in the Pro-Am category and in 992s. And he wins despite the 1 second penalty for a short pit stop by 2.7 seconds. We might get some highlights here to talk through in a second, so I'll try and rattle through. But if we do get highlights, I'll switch to them and finish the rest of the order in a moment. It's Borja Garcia, second in the order, both in Pro-Am and 992 and overall. And third place, Dylan Pereira in the number 17 car after he took over from his co-driver, Andre Fernandez. Fourth place went to Jose Barros. Then it's fifth place for Jorge Ramirez, who also picks up the AM class victory in the endurance race. Sixth goes to the number 15, which was Sasha Baruch, and sharing with Gorostiza. And Gorostiza, of course, was in the gentleman drivers category in that one. And we'll look back here. We'll come back in a second. This is what happened with some highlights of the race. This is the spin that the 36 Porsche of Maria Sanchez Iglesias took up at turn 3. Just looped it around herself, possibly going a little too hot into that braking zone. It's really tricky, as I said. You're going through flat out in turn 1. You have to really just trail brake pretty hard all the way through turns 2. Just lost the back end, and it lost quite a lot of time. So back around loop the 36. And whether that manifested whatever the issue was that put them out of the race, I'm not 100%, because that car did come in a couple of times. It came in not long after that, and then it came in for what we thought was going to be its scheduled stop. And there it went. This is Daniel Garcia making his pit stop. And highlights here of some of the other pit stops that happened. This is the 15 car of Sasha Baruch and Gorostiza. This is the dive up the inside that Dylan Pereira made to make a move on Jorge Ramirez, not waiting around at all to make that move. And up he went into what was 4th position. This was the fight between Barros and Borja Garcia, and this was Garcia basically putting the frighteners on Barros as he made a little bit of a mistake as he put the pressure on. This might have been a little bit later on. He was getting close at this point in time, but eventually did manage to make the move S, because it was a little bit further on this lap as Pereira tried to catch up back in what was 4th position at that point. And he put the pressure on, and there was a little moment here down towards turn 15. He had to look up the inside, thought he was fine up alongside, couldn't make it stick, and the good run out of the final corner gave him the toe he needed down towards turn 1. He got the slipstream up towards the first corner, headlights were flashing, and as the race carried on, all well. But up to the checkered flag came Manuel Alves, and for the first time in 2025, he picks up an endurance race win to go with his quartet of sprint race victories so far this season. Second place to Borja Garcia, and third to Dylan Pereira. And in the end, it was Alves after his 1 second penalty for, we think, a short pit stop. That was 2.7 seconds out in front, and another 2.6 after Pereira's 1 second penalty for his shorter pit stop, we think. Put him 5.3 seconds off the lead in the end. It was Pro-Am victory for Manuel Alves. It was the AM victory for Jorge Ramirez. It was the Gentleman Drivers victory for Gorostiza in the number 15 car. And also the Ladies Cup victory for Francisca Queiroz, who finished in 9th overall. And there's the celebrations of Jorge Ramirez following up with his sprint race victory and enduro victory as well to take good points towards the championship with 2 meetings still to go. But Spain, Jerez, and then we go to Estoril in Portugal at the end of November, the 22nd and 23rd. I think this is also coming across the line. Francesca Queiroz. That's her confirming her Ladies' Cup victory and second in AM class. And here comes on the screen here the replay. This is of Gorostiza coming across the line and taking the Gentleman Driver's victory. And an excellent 6th overall. So, quick rundown of the final results then before we sign off from the weekend is Manuel Alves who takes victory by 2.7 seconds in the end from Borja Garcia in second place and Dylan Pereira in third, 5.3 seconds back, both after the penalties got applied post-race as well. Then it's Jose Barros in 4th, Jorge Ramirez with the AM class victory in 5th. Gorostiza helps number 15 car take the Gentleman Driver's victory ahead of Daniel Garcia. Then Gian Traverson in 8th position. Francesca Queiroz, second in AM class and also takes the Ladies' Cup honours as well on top of that. And then we saw a 991 victory take the clean sweep of the weekend, both sprint races and the endurance for Nuno Inocencio. He'll be delighted with that in terms of his chances for the 991 category title. He was ahead of Pablo Hernandez in 11th place. Then it was Brianna McDonald, who was one of our 3 cars that we lost in that race because she pitted with issues, as did also Chloe Grant after that car that she shares with Maria Sanchez Iglesias had to pit as well with the problems. We didn't even see the number 11 car. The Alexandra Fonseca and Ferreira car pitted basically before the end of the first lap, or even before the race even started. So that's a shame we didn't see that car properly. And so the chapter closes on another round of Porsche Sprint Challenge Iberica for 2025. And now you look forward to a bit of a break now for at least a couple of months before we get back underway for our final stop in Spain. And that is the former Grand Prix venue, Jerez de la Frontera, on the 1st and 2nd of November. And then the run into the final race of the season, which is going to be at Estoril in Portugal to bookend where we started in Portugal at Portimao on the 22nd and 23rd of November. I have to say, first of all, a massive thank you to all involved for having me on board for commentating this English stream. Thank you to Dave Richardson and to Brian Oliver and to all involved and the team of Porsche Sprint Challenge Iberica and P21 Motorsport. Thank you for having me. But a genuine pleasure and entertaining to cover this championship for the first time. And hopefully those watching on the channel have enjoyed the comms and enjoyed the effort that I put in there as well as I can. I did my best and all good being well. So if you haven't if you haven't subscribed yet, do subscribe to the Sprint Challenge Iberica channel for more race highlights and live streams when we get them up for the rest of the season. Also visit the website as well and also on social media and give them a follow because of course this championship is only getting bigger and better as we go on to the end of the season, and of course we've got some exciting title fights coming up towards the end of the season. But for one final time, from myself, Scott Woodward, from all of us at Navarra and for everyone watching around and involved in the championship, thank you very much for watching. Do hit subscribe and join us in a few weeks' time when the championship moves on to its penultimate event of the season, back to Spain, and its last outing in Spain at Jerez de la Frontera on the 1st and 2nd of November. But until then, take care, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.